This thing is a disaster. This is doing nothing but delaying the claim, because this thing was a total before we took it apart. Any reasonable person that's a repairer would know that, and a licensed adjuster should certainly know that.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Airing of Grievances. I'm Eric Reamer. That is, of course, Robert Grieve, and we are happy that you are here today. If this is your first time visiting the channel, we say welcome. If you see something you like, go ahead and push the thumbs up button. That tells YouTube that what we're doing actually matters and we get more YouTube love that way.
Just do it now.
That's a good idea.
Just do it now.
And if you haven't yet...
Hang on a second. They're pushing the button.
Oh, sorry. Take your time. Are you done? Okay. Do me a favor, if you haven't done it yet, click the red button. It's another button to push, I know. I'm pushing buttons all day long here. The subscribe button. We appreciate it so much when you do that. And again, it'll notify you Saturday mornings at 9:30 a.m. that we're launching another premiere of the Airing of Grievances. With that being said, Rob, I want to say happy Saturday to you.
To you too, my dear friends. Happy Saturday. Happy
Very
Saturday.
nice to have you.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Rob. So we've got, we've got a compelling, crazy story with plot twists and surprise endings, I guess. Right?
Yeah, we sure do.
What are we talking about today?
Well, let's start out with, for our consumers watching, should you trust the judgment of your insurance company with the repairs of your vehicle?
Wow. That's a loaded question.
Yeah. You know, you've been paying them a long time. You're one of their, customers, whatever they want to call you, clients.
Right.
And you feel as though they should have your best interest at heart, which they should.
They should.
But keep in mind that these people are not repair specialists. They're financial specialists. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And there's some of these people that will tell you they've got 30 years in the business and they, do this all day long and they know how your car should be fixed and that's excessive and that car doesn't need to go on the frame machine and I don't see any evidence that you need to do any measuring, all the rest of this. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They could actually be even lying to you and misleading you by saying things like that. They're not the repair experts.
What? For those of you who are just catching up with us, we tell you this stuff on a regular basis, but that is probably the most succinct, well-stated way to put it as I've heard in a long time.
Before we get into this little case study, because we have a vehicle in the shop and that I want to show you.
Yeah. But
I want to read a little excerpt out of the Colorado Revised Statutes.
Oh.
It's kind of like a law thing.
It's
not
exactly.
Not that I'm a lawyer.
It's exactly
I'm
a
just
law thing.
reading you from the Colorado Revised Statute, Title 10. And it says in here, insurance companies have duties and responsibilities.
Sure.
They also have to follow the law. So I'm going to read you to the law. And then at the end of this, if you can just type a note if you think the insurance company followed the law. I'd love to hear your opinion. Here's what it says. The law requires that an estimate prepared by or for the insurer covering the damages that are visible or evident at the time of inspection is adequate to restore the property within a reasonable amount of time to the condition before the loss in accordance with applicable policy provisions. In other words, if they look at your car, they know certain things by looking at it. The fender's damaged, it needs a new hood, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
These are professionals.
Did you just make air quotes?
I might have. Anyway, they have a responsibility to write a full and complete estimate to repair your vehicle to pre-loss condition, or as it was before the damage.
Yes.
In a reasonable amount of time.
Yes.
Not write the estimate in a reasonable amount of time, but write an estimate that can establish a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
So, what we're going to talk about today is a 2023 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. It's got 2,000 miles on it.
It's brand new.
Yeah. Now, I don't believe there's any 2024s out yet.
Okay.
So I'm fairly certain this is a brand new vehicle.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and show you a picture of the vehicle in question. And we're going to show you this picture from this angle.
Okay.
And it looks pretty banged up.
Yeah, that's not the way it came off the floor.
No. And if we go to the next picture from the other side, there's lots of damage there. And if you zoom in, you can see the damage on the wheel. So, and it needs a new door on that side. But you can see the way that nose is just swung way over.
Yeah, sure.
And so, looking at this photo, I mean, even the casual observer walking by would know that this vehicle is going to be a total.
Well, it appears to me because, both sides are severely damaged. My first impression is there must be some kind of frame damage.
I think that's reasonable.
My eye tells me that.
And I would say you're a casual observer.
I'm very, very casual. My
not a professional.
Absolutely not. But my eye would tell me that, and of course it should be reinforced with a measurement.
Yeah. So let's take a look under the hood real quick.
Oh.
And there you can see your hybrid wiring.
Yeah.
They make it that way because it's dangerous. Don't ever touch those.
That's the orange wires there. Yeah.
Yep. But over here, you can see the radiator support is just completely munched.
Yeah, sure.
So, that's one of the pieces that he has on the estimate, and we'll get to you. We'll get to that in just a minute.
All right.
Here it is. Here's a shot where you can see the headlight is smashed in and the bumper is kind of hanging out a little bit.
Yeah.
And while the hood's open, it doesn't need to be open to be able to see in between the headlight and the bumper. There's a wide open gap.
Right.
And if you look in between the bumper, you can look down inside and see the frame is almost folded over on itself.
I see that right there, sure.
So these are some important things that need to be taken into consideration when you're writing an estimate.
Okay.
To repair a vehicle or to deem it a vehicle a total loss. Maybe you don't even write an estimate on this car. Maybe you look at this damage that you can clearly see without disassembling it.
Yeah.
That the car's probably a total loss.
Never going to come back.
So, this picture is one of the hinges of the hood. You can see that is
mangled. Is that a good word?
Yeah, that seems appropriate. So you have all this visible damage.
Sure.
I think if we go back to that, requires that any estimate prepared by or for an insurance covering damages that are visible or evident at the time of inspection
Yeah.
I think that we have some visible damage here. So I think what we need to do now, this is important, consumers, because I've said over and over through these videos, you need to be an active participant. You need to review the estimates not only from the body shop but from the insurance company.
Right.
So you understand how your vehicle is being repaired, especially in a case where it's a 2022 and brand new.
2023.
Excuse me, 2023.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the estimate real quick.
Okay.
Now,
I put some highlights in here so you could see it a little clearer.
it's glaring. It's glaring.
Yeah.
This vehicle has been written, okay, 2023
Yep.
RAV4 hybrid
Yes.
with 2,000 miles on it.
Right.
Has been written for all these aftermarket non-Toyota parts.
All those are the ones that are highlighted in yellow.
Yes. Some of them CAPA certified, some of them not, which is...
Yeah, you want to learn more a little about CAPA, take a look at this video right up here,
Right.
and you'll see what we have to say about them.
Yes. So you can clearly see that all these color-coded parts are all aftermarket parts. They do not belong on a brand new car. So let's get a little advice from Toyota.
Okay.
So here is a collision repair bulletin
Yep.
from Toyota, dated May 2022,
Okay.
so not that long ago. And it says, Toyota and Lexus do not support the use of any alternative parts, in a collision repair procedures due to the sensitive nature of the safety or vehicle performance systems and their effect on vehicle crashworthiness. You don't want these parts on your car. I don't care what year it is. I mean,
Right.
unless it's old, and
Yeah.
they don't make the parts anymore. Something along that line.
Sure.
These parts don't belong on new vehicles or even newer vehicles, 10 years newer. It doesn't really matter. We don't use them on any vehicle.
Right.
But you do not want these on your vehicle. So, and Toyota says, don't put them on your vehicle. The other thing I want to point out here is line 17 is an aftermarket lower reinforcement. Reinforcement is a safety item.
Yeah.
It protects you. It directs energy
Sure.
off the passenger, as do a lot of components in this thing. You don't want a non-known part going into this vehicle in that kind of a safety thing.
Sure.
Speaking of safety, we're going to jump down to line 25 and 26, and these are the side supports that I showed you in that first picture. Actually, let's just go back. These are the side supports. There's one on either side.
For the radiator support.
For the radiator support,
Yeah.
Yep. If you notice all the way over next to the part price, they have a little S next to them.
Yeah. That's marked in red there for you.
Yeah. As you're looking through this estimate and you see the aftermarket parts, they're easy to identify because they say AM. And they usually don't have the same type of part number that factory part numbers have.
I see.
But this little S is really important, and they're next to aftermarket parts. And the little S means structural. So it's a structural part.
That means it's basically holding, that's responsible for the distribution of energy and keeping the car together.
Yeah, it's an important piece. And they're suggesting that aftermarket parts be used in that scenario. That's a huge no-no.
I think that's why we named the video what we did.
Yeah. So, the other thing I want to bring to your attention on this particular estimate
Yep.
is it was written by a person with a license number.
A license.
A licensed appraiser.
Okay. And then that begs a question. Are there such things as unlicensed appraisers?
Ton. I should get my own license, but I don't have one.
Okay. All right.
But in any case, a licensed appraiser is looking at this car and has all these aftermarket parts. And then, by the way, all that damage,
Yeah.
he seemed to find a way to capture in 66 lines and a little more than a page and a half of cataloging damage. So if we go to the second page, on line 62, it's got a reconditioned wheel.
Yep, there it is.
I'm sure you won't be surprised to realize that Toyota Lexus does not sanction the use of reconditioned wheels either, for safety reasons.
Yeah.
So, you've heard me talk in other videos about reading the estimate and understand what they're doing, and then the other side of that is what isn't on the estimate.
Yeah.
So, if we look at this vehicle, there's no setup and measure the frame on this vehicle.
Even I would know that you would, if you're going to write the estimate, if you're not going to total it outright from what you can see, you have to prove the fact that the frame is either good or bad, and in this case...
Yeah, you need to know if it's in alignment, and when you see a hood over like that, let's bring up that first picture.
Oh,
again.
it's...
The fenders are buckled.
The nose is pointing a different direction.
Even if you couldn't look through the headlight and see the frame damage,
Yeah.
a reasonable person in the industry that knows anything about cars
Yeah.
would insist on a setup and measure on that vehicle. Nowhere on this estimate is there a setup and measure of the vehicle.
It's unconscionable.
Also, there is no pre-scan on a 2023 vehicle with all the electronics that's in that. No post-scan. So a couple of videos ago we talked about the fact that the computer systems are capturing what's being written, and there's a very low percentage of pre and post scans and calibrations being noted on estimates.
Yep.
And that those estimates are not just shop estimates, they're insurance company and shop estimates.
Right.
Here's an example of a vehicle that clearly needs a pre and a post scan
Yeah.
and calibrations
Yep.
that it's not on the estimate, which is part of why maybe that number is not what it should be.
How much was this written for?
$11,000.
$11,000.
$11,000 to fix that kind of damage.
A brand new hybrid Toyota RAV4.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if it's a hybrid, you can imagine how much there are as far as electronics and sensors and all the rest of that.
So much.
So, here's another thing. And we all have talked about paint's not going to kill anybody and so on and so forth. But whenever you, and looking at this picture, you know you're going to replace the fender. So whenever you replace a part, a fender, a hood, whatever, you blend the adjacent panel. You refinish the adjacent panel.
Yep.
There's no mention of painting the door to match the fender on a brand new vehicle, which there's no way to paint that fender and have it match the door. It's impossible. If you go to the other side, they have a new fender, they have a new front door, no blend on the rear door. This is just normal everyday stuff.
Right.
This is not, we do things different than everybody else. This is just normal everyday estimating 101.
Yeah, what they have written
Probably estimating 99.
or not written is neither reasonable nor customary.
No. And so, why? Let's just say this consumer, the adjuster says, look, we've written up a thorough initial estimate, and the body shop's going to find more when they take it apart, and we'll address all that stuff then. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, maybe they'll argue about it. Who knows?
What do they usually do?
They argue about it.
Okay.
And they insert their opinions where not needed, necessary, or warranted.
I hate it when opinions are inserted where not necessarily needed or warranted.
And this thing is a disaster. This is doing nothing but delaying the claim, because this thing was a total before we took it apart. Any reasonable person that's a repairer would know that, and a licensed adjuster should certainly know that. But maybe we're delaying the claim to, I don't know.
Yeah.
Keep the money in the bank as long as we can.
It's impossible to get inside the head of someone who is absolutely doing the wrong thing.
This came in, I looked at Yes Man, I was speechless. This is the stuff that you as consumers need to be aware of, need to have a partner, an advocate on your side, and maybe we can show that slide of the triangles.
Oh, sure.
You know, all these positions of who's in control are very, very important to the outcome of a repair. This vehicle is not getting repaired. But if it were, this is not even close to what it needs.
Yeah, we need to go back to the first question that you posed at the top of this video.
Is this somebody that you should trust?
The insurance company.
Yeah. And they'll tell you all sorts of fancy stuff. I couldn't see this, I couldn't see that. It's easy to see. Yeah, they got a bumper and a hood and fenders and a door and headlights. But clearly, there is so much more going on that had it been cataloged as best as possible, even just from the visual side of things, the car would have been deemed a total at the lot. It would have gone to the auction. You'd be paid and driving another car by now. Instead, these people are probably run out of their rental by weeks. So, by the way, this car started off with the insurance company of the person that hit him. And we've talked about this before, too.
We have.
That insurance company knew that this was going to be an expensive repair and probably a total. The policy owner did not have enough limits on the policy. Statutory limits, so $15,000, something like that, in property damage.
Right.
Which this is way over $15,000. So they, as far as I know, totaled it. Or just said to the consumer, there's not enough policy coverage to repair this. You need to go through your own policy.
Right.
And you need to make sure you have the right limits, because truly, if the owner of this vehicle didn't want to go through their own policy, they just sue the person that hit them personally.
Right.
And if, I mean, there's lots of bad things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
The easiest thing to do is just go through your own company and let them deal with it and get as much as they can from the other company. Limits are an issue. But another insurance company has already looked at this thing and said, yeah, this is bad.
Right.
So you need to go through your own company, and this is what your own company did.
I think I was shocked most to discover that there were two insurance companies involved in this case originally. The first one, the insurance company of the one who hit this car, and then to find out, and you know, we can make a couple of assumptions in there to keep everybody clear. This is an assumption on my part, but if you have the very most basic limits of liability, the assumption is suing you is probably not going to be as effective as I want it to be, because you don't have enough money to pay for the proper load of insurance. I'm just saying, that's my assumption.
Yeah, so you'll end up going through your own anyway. But even if that's the case, your own should be advocating for you too.
Should be
You should have
advocating
a
for you.
shop advocating for you and an insurance company advocating for you. In that scenario, things turn out pretty well for you.
Yeah.
This insurance company is not advocating for this guest. That is for sure.
No, it's
and
almost as
right
if-
from the very beginning.
Yeah. It's almost as if it were written by a caveman.
Maybe.
Just saying. All right. Well,
So that's what I have for you today.
we're going to come back, I think, at some future point and update this case, because this is today's business, right? This is today's news.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important. I'll put some links in the bottom here for other articles and videos that you can take a look at that will help you know what to do in situations like this. And we pray that you never get into a situation like this. But if you do, you need to know this guy, at least so that you can ask questions. The answers are free, and
Yep.
we'll help as much as we possibly can.
Amen. Of course we will.
Thank you so very much.
So there you have it.
Appreciate that so much.
My dear friends, happy Saturday to you. I hope you have an amazing weekend and a great next week. We'll see you next Saturday.